Welcome to Scorched Earth, excuse me, and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of November 2025. I hope you're well. I haven't been, that's why these readings are late. Apologies for that, and thank you for being patient. I really appreciate it. I'm using the Tarot of Shadow and Light for you today. In the meditation that I did before I started your reading, there was something really, really deep that was moving, and I'm kind of struggling to find the words to articulate exactly what it was that I felt, but it was a churn, Aries. There was a big churn that was coming up from somewhere very, very deep in you, and so I'm quite curious to see what the cards might have to say about that. Anyway, before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's via the first link in the description box below. That will take you to Selfie. Alternatively, you can come over to Circle, which is my private community. It's actually called the Order of the Phoenix, but it's on the Circle platform. There you can get access to all of the extended content for all the signs for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. You also get weekly energy readings and access at the higher tier, at least anyway, to the live classes that we run a couple of times a month. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, please do feel free to avail yourself of the second link. Right, with all of that out of the way, Aries, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Aries, please? There's the first one. That is the 9 of Cups in the reversed position, right there in your recent past. What about current energy for Aries, please? Thank you. We have the Moon. Touche. And what about what's coming towards Aries for the rest of November, please? Thank you. We have the 3 of Wands and we have the Tower. And I don't know if you can see, but I've just come out in, you can't see, I've come out in massive goosebumps all over. That's, no, camera's not going to focus on it, but like, that is strong. At the bottom of the deck, we have got the King of Pentacles. Now, this represents Taurus energy, and no doubt some of you are aware that Uranus has just moved back, retrograded back into Taurus for one last hoorah. I don't even know what you would call it, right? It's certainly, you know, when we have the planets moving from one sign to another and then retrograding back, what we've got is a tying up of a story that they started when they came into that sign. So whatever house Taurus represents for you, and we all have Taurus somewhere in our natal chart, you can expect some kind of, well, the best way to look at it would be breakthrough. All right, but probably maybe felt a little bit more like upheaval in that space. Now, ultimately, that's all about setting you free, releasing you from something, and finishing out that story of release. And certainly, in terms of what it's setting you up for next, you know, the longer I do this, and I've been doing this here on YouTube now for like 6.5 years, the more humble I become in terms of recognizing this underlying intelligence of the universe, where everything is in this really extraordinary flow. And we don't experience it that way. Maybe it is because, for generally speaking, humans just don't live long enough to see it. But if you can kind of tune into the bigger picture of what happens in your own life as it's happening, you start to see it weaving these most extraordinary kind of situations by way of setting up the energy for what comes next, you know. Now, the reason that I'm talking about this in this way is because there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that you're feeling a little bit confused right now, Aries. Right, we see this here, but with this upcoming Tower energy, which is a card that, you know, that represents an energy that talks about you and what you can do. Coming in, you know, we've got essentially the destruction of something, but also the planning of the creation of something that's going on with the King of Pentacles. I mean, he's literally sat there. Let me have a look. You see that? You see, he's thinking about something. And I didn't even realize, but we actually have the Emperor sitting underneath that. there he is. Now, the Emperor is the Aries card. And as we know, the Emperor is the King of Kings. Every king is an aspect of the Emperor. The Emperor is the embodiment of all of those together, right? So we've got that kind of masculine doing of the Emperor, but also the planning and the strategy and the emotional regulation and all these kind of things that we would associate with the individual kings. It is in the fusion of those together that we become that bigger entity, that bigger energy, right? Now, the fact that you have got, at the very least, let's say you've got 2 major arcana cards on the table, but I think the Emperor kind of pushing underneath the King of Pentacles there means really we should allocate 3 to what's going on. Does suggest that this energy that I could feel that was churning really, really deep. And I don't know if it's emotional for you. It might well be, you know, at the point of recording, that Grand Water Trine is still very active in the sky. And it is, it's being experienced differently by most people. But if you have water somewhere prominently in your chart, I'm talking about your big 3, then you may be feeling it as a more overwhelming energy than if you've got just fire or air or fire or earth in your big 3, right? It's a pattern that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, talking to people. So whatever it is that is churning and churning so very deeply in you, it could be that some aspect of you is picking up on the change of direction that is incoming, because we've got that going on there. And whether that's being kicked into your life suddenly and unexpectedly by the universe, or whether you are indeed the one who is initiating this big change of direction. It's not entirely clear at this point. I kind of am erring towards the latter, if I'm honest, Aries. And I'm doing that because we've got another Aries card right there in the 3 of Wands. It's the 3 of Wands is about movement. It's about pushing forwards, right? It's about executing a plan. But the plan seems to be detonating the plan and coming up with something better. There is a shift coming up. Let us draw out some clarifiers before I say any more, because first I think we need to understand how we get there, you know. So 9 of Cups in reverse. Why is that here? We've got the Justice card, Libra energy. Ooh, and the 5 of Swords. Interesting. That's Aquarius. Right there, Venus in Aquarius, if I recall correctly. Tell me about the moon, please. Why is the moon here for Aries? Right. Yeah, thank you. I just had the clash go through my head there. I quite literally, should I stay or should I go? That's exactly what those 2 cards say. What the fuck? All right, tell me about the 3 of Wands. Okay, we've got the 10 of Wands. We've got the 3 of Swords. One more card for this slot, please. Thank you. And in the upright, we have the Ace of Cups. Wow. Okay, well, let's just put these spinny cards back where they should be. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Queen of Cups. That's Cancer energy, but it's also representing, you know, if you're looking at this from an astrological perspective, it's representing what is currently the only thing that is sitting in Cancer, which is Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is an expansive energy, and although it is known as the Great Benefic, its job is expansion. So if you're feeling kind of shit, Jupiter might well blow that up just a little bit. If you're feeling a lack of something, then Jupiter may expand that feeling of lack, you know. The good news for you here is there's a lot hinging on self-worth here. Actually, I didn't even think about the fact we've got the moon here, which for me is also Cancer, right? So we've got double Cancer energy. We've got this King of Pentacles here going, is this even the right move forward? I'm not sure that this is the way that I want it to go. Perhaps I might, you know, work through the logistics of maybe what if I went that way? What if I started building in that direction instead? You know, like I said, that big churn could be part of an emerging Emperor energy, but it could be the emotional, I want to say, instability, where something's coming up from the deep and it's saying, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling going this way. But let's start over here, and then we'll kind of work our way across, right? So we've got this Nine of Cups here. And for me, that's any card that is numbered 9 is important, because it talks about how we manage whatever suit it's representing, right? So the Nine of Swords is how you manage your mind, if indeed you do manage your mind. Nine of Wands is about your actions and how you are, in control of your actions or not, whether you kind of trying to hide away or whether you're putting up good boundaries, this sort of thing. In the case of the Nine of Cups, it is of course centered around what is emotional for you, right? So it's about emotional regulation. It's also about your highest goals, hopes, dreams, aspirations, and what you're doing to put yourself into alignment with those. Now, when this card shows up in the reverse, it doesn't necessarily imply a mismanagement of something, although it can. And it doesn't necessarily indicate emotional dysregulation, but it can. I feel like what's important about this is that it has pushed something up to the surface where you can see it, and there is an understanding from you that actually, maybe it's just been coming up like that. Like, I'm not really feeling this. Like, it doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel like it's the right way. And there could be all sorts of consequences of that in the immediate moment, which is you could be feeling pretty stressed, you could be feeling pretty tense, you could be feeling pretty snappy, actually, because there's a lot of uncertainty around that. When it comes to the Nine of Cups, it's quite difficult to work out until we stop and really look at how we feel, whether the way that we're feeling is reasonable, right? And sometimes we decide that the way that we're feeling is completely unreasonable, but we're kind of at a loss as to what that even really fucking means, right? So, I'll give you an example, right? When my kids were very young, my youngest ones, the twins, I think they were just over 2 when I suddenly clocked that I had postnatal depression, right? And it dawned on me in one moment in my kitchen where all 5 of my children were trying to talk to me at the same time. I was just completely overwhelmed by it all, and I just barked at them, and they all, like cat airplaned ears, and I was like, what the fuck? And in that moment I was like, oh my god, I'm just like my mother. Like, that's exactly how my mother would have been with me. And it started this cascade, and literally within about 3 hours I was like, holy shit, I've got all of the fucking symptoms of postnatal depression. I am overwhelmed, I am highly emotionally dysregulated, like all of these things. And I was like, well, fuck. Oh shit. And then I sort of looked back over the last 2 years and I was like, well, I could actually totally see how this has just played out, But it took me looking at it in that moment of kind of snapping, where the snapping felt perfectly fucking reasonable, because, like, my God, you're all so loud and you're all so squeaky, and like, and it wasn't. But until that moment, when I caught myself, I couldn't see it for what it is. Anyway, the point is that in that it kind of feels a little bit foggy. It's not terribly clear. And, just as, we can probably realise when we're feeling happy, when we're feeling content and all that kind of thing, there are degrees of movement from here to here, where things are definitely going off the boil, but we're not quite tuned in enough to ourselves to witness from an external position that is happening. Anyway, with the Justice card and the 5 of Swords here, I think what we've been presented with is an opportunity to witness that in one way or another. Now, it could be that you've been feeling very stressed, you've been feeling very overwhelmed, you've been feeling like you're kind of pushing water uphill with a fork. It's like everything feels like it's pretty tense, and it's that feels that is the important thing. Now, I think with Aries, one of the problems with Aries, with all the love in the world, it's a problem right across all of the fire signs, is noticing the level of discomfort we are in. I think to an extent, you may also see this happening with the earth signs, right? When you kind of lock in on something that you're doing, and you can quite literally ignore everything else that's going on inside of you. You can ignore the level of discomfort. You can ignore all of those things because you're locked in on something, right? Earth signs do this as well. And I think what's happened is it's not been something that you can push to the side or ignore anymore. It's kind of like the evidence of it is here, and the Justice card is saying, what are you going to do about it? Because this feeling has been given to you for a reason, and the reason is that you can have a look and see where things are, you know, completely out of whack and completely out of balance. Now, it could be that, you know, you've been on the receiving end of some Five of Swords energy. Mercury is in retrograde, right? That is entirely possible, where people are miscommunicating, you know, one person saying one thing and another person hears something else, and then there's all sorts of kind of fallout from that. Or it could be that you're recognizing that there is some incongruence between how you feel and what you think, and that's what's causing the friction. That's what's causing the problem. The Justice card is saying, like, not trying to kick you over here. That's what the Justice card is saying. But there's something out of alignment, there's something out of balance, and in order to move forward in a way that feels more aligned for you, you're going to have to address it. That's the big push there, right? So then we come into your current energy, and we've got the moon. And the moon is really speaking to that deep part of you that is churning, but it also, because it represents the subconscious and whatnot, is not speaking in a nice, straightforward, easy language that we can understand. Remember that the language of the subconscious is symbolism, right? So it could be that there's been an uptick in, for example, like anxiety dreams, you know, things where like shit just seems to be coming out of your control in your dream. You wake up being like, what the fuck is going on here, right? Or it could be that you're finding expressions of this in your actual waking life, where you're like, hang on, everything was very, very clear a month ago, and now suddenly it's gone all foggy, and I don't really know what that means, right? And at the bottom of it all is this kind of, is this even right feeling that is going on under there. Now, you know, I'm cackling before because the should I stay or should I go is a very, very clear expression of these two cards here, right? And having no fucking clue whether you should stay or whether you should go. But what's really amusing to me is the fact that they showed up sideways. So it's not even as if it is clear that that's the thing to be clear about. Everything is foggy, everything is distorted, everything is kind of confused, and maybe Jupiter's having something to do with that as well, right? And it's like, it's not clear on any level that there is a binary decision to be made here, because everything's covered in this kind of fog. Now, you know, the moon does represent a long journey that we have to take, right? It's the last card, actually, of the underworld journey, before we emerge renewed via the sun. Where's my fucking wild unknown deck? Where's it got? There it is. Move that out of the way. I want to pull this up here. Because it could be that it seems like it's everything other than that. It could be that it feels like there are 27,000 different decisions that need to be made, and you're not even clear why this suddenly should be the case. It's because you kind of not lost sight, but haven't quite touched base with the should I stay or should I go. Not in terms of, you know, leaving your house or anything, but should I stay with the plan or should I move into something else? Because this feeling that you've got, it doesn't feel to me like it's shifting anytime soon, until you realise that that is what is being proposed by the subconscious feeling that you've got going on there, right? So the Empress is all about nurturing and abundance and about fertility, right? It's about the ways in which we feel actually abundant and creative too. And usually the Empress is an indication that something is percolating here. Now for you, what is percolating is in the dark, right? Just as the Empress card is here and the Moon card is representing here, we've got things that are happening beneath the surface in the dark, where we can't really get a proper sense of what's going on, what the binary actually is, if indeed there is one. And then somehow in the middle of it all, you know that there are really big decisions for you to make, but you can't work out which way to make them, right? It's almost like the direction is completely missing. And is it a choice between, a decision to be made between two options here? Or is it a series of choices that have got to be taken in some sort of linear fashion? Or do we have to just do it all now? Like, if that isn't a recipe for feeling really fucking confused about where you are, I don't know what is. But the Page of Wands is at the bottom of the deck. And I feel like the Page of Wands is the energy that is cracking everything here for you. Because the realization that some internal part of you, some intuitive part of you is tweaking really fucking loudly because it has spotted something that you have not seen. And knowing that there are decisions to be made moving forwards, I feel like the level of discomfort is grinding away on you so fucking hard that the choice is to go. Right? Whatever that means to you, it's to go. The fact that you're thinking about it at all is probably a good enough indication that that's what's being highlighted here for you. But it might take you another week to get to the point where you realise it's a choice between the established path that you got set forward in your head and some sort of as yet unrealised plan that takes you off in a different direction. But like I said, the key to cracking it all does feel to me like it's the Page of Wands, because it's like, okay, well, let's say, for example, and this is you talking to yourself, Aries, that this feeling of discomfort that I've got, this grinding that I can feel going on inside, even though I can't quite articulate what that is about, is telling me that something about the path that I've picked is not right, is not in alignment with me. Certainly that would be another indication for the Lover's card being on its side, right? Where am I going to go instead? What am I going to do instead, right? We're back to the plan here and the overhauling of the plan. I think even just directing your energy in orienting it towards the idea that maybe this isn't it, and maybe what is it is over there, is enough to start the ball rolling and the fog clearing, and the realization that if you, as a newly more insightful being than you ever have been before in your life, is getting messages coming up from this really, really deep place that are making you feel uncomfortable enough that you're noticing it and you need to do something about it, then maybe you need to do something about it, right? And it's not about ignoring what the signals that are coming up, and it's not about pretending that they're not there and just forging ahead, because we know that you are much more discerning about where you apply your energy now, and you hold things a lot lighter than you used to, and you're much more open to that kind of nudging that's going on, right? That's coming from an intuitive place, an emotional place, because fire is exceptionally intuitive, right? It is the most intuitive element that there is. But it tends to react more to external stimuli than internal stimuli, at its most basic operation. Chuck some water over it, it'll go out. Fire up some bellows at it and give it more air and it'll get bigger, for example, right? What's happened for you over the last few years is that you've got much more sensitive to the interoception of what is going on in your emotional state, and when you're getting messages from it, you're like, oh, I need to work with this, I need to do something with it, right? It's discernment. So even just the contemplation of the change of direction here is enough to, like I said, start clearing the fog for you. Because what do we have over here for the rest of November? We have action, we have movement, and we have a sudden change of direction. Let's put it that way, right? Now, people get scared of the Tower, and I can understand why, because it does shake the foundations, right? But you're an extremely adaptable and, actually really quite flexible sign, who can respond and, to stimuli, both internal and external now, in a way that feels assertive and right for you, right? So this call's coming from inside the house, the signals are going off, and you're like, what am I going to do about this? And it's like, the more that you engage with this feeling, the more the certainty arrives that we have to be doing in a different direction. Like I said at the beginning, I don't feel like the Tower is coming in to smash up your plans for you. I feel like this is self-initiated. This Three of Wands, I forget what planet it's associated with off the top of my head, but it's an Aries card, right? 2, 3, 4 of Wands. These are Aries cards. And we're not just in a position for the rest of November of kind of musing on it. That would be the Two of Wands. Instead, we've got action that is coming off the back of, what internal signals are happening for you. And it's saying, change direction. It's saying, maybe it's a 90-degree turn, maybe it's a 45-degree turn, but whatever it is, it's not the moving forward that we thought it was going to be. Not that way, at least. We're reorienting, we're going in a different direction. And here is quite interesting, because it's not just about self-preservation. There's something altogether higher happening here, Aries, and I want to make sure that you really understand that, because the evolution of you, right, such that you can employ that level of interoception and say, something feels wrong internally, and I have, evolved to a point where I recognize that there is an important message in there and I have to listen to it, particularly if it's around how hard you are working, or how much you may be denying in yourself in order to keep walking that path. The Ace of Cups is always about the relationship, I think, about the relationship that we have with ourselves, and understanding that that is sacred. Also understanding that communication with the universe does not happen on the level of the conscious mind. It doesn't happen on the level of the words that we say, or even the things that we think with the conscious mind. It's happening on the level of the subconscious, of the unconscious, right? And so I've used this example in my classes. So if you've ever sat in on one of those, right, the mind is structured like a little boy riding a mammoth. Right, the mammoth is your subconscious, the little boy is your conscious mind. Is anybody going to pretend that the little boy is in charge of the direction that they're travelling at any given point? Absolutely not, right? And what will happen is the little boy, your conscious mind, will make up reasons why. Obviously, we were always going to go this way, even if your conscious mind was wanting to go that way, right? This is how we tie ourselves in knots with the ways that we kind of deceive ourselves, right? What's happening here is that you've had a fairly loud trumpeting from your mammoth that said, no, I am not fucking going that way. Something about this is wrong. I don't like it. And bear in mind that mammoth never goes to sleep. It's constantly scanning the horizon, looking for threats, right? But it is also aligned with the universe in terms of that's the level that the communication happens, right? So if the trumpeting and the pulling is going this way, and you're still trying to adhere to the plan that you made with your conscious mind, you're not aligned. Remember, it was all about an opportunity to align something here, right? So when we pull this back together and go, no, actually, I am worth taking care of. I am worth listening to whatever feedback is coming from my internal space. And then I take action in that direction. This can only be a good thing. Now, the Ten of Wands in reverse is not the end that we would expect to see when it shows up like that. But the Ten of Wands is more like a breaking point, right? It's a breakthrough that comes from the point of hitting such rock bottom that we literally cannot do anymore. Now, I wonder if you have recognised that there is a possibility of burnout, or there is a possibility of something along those lines coming up for you here. And it's like, fuck me, no, I don't want to hit the point where I hit rock bottom. Because in the past, that's been the point where I paid attention. I got literally nothing else to lose. At rock bottom, maybe now I'll start paying attention to the signals that are coming up from inside. Now, you know what that's like, Aries. You spent a couple of years in that space and you've learned too much to allow it to happen again. So now you've recognized the signal. Now you've heard the trumpeting from the mammoth who's having absolute fit about something to do with the plan that you've made. I think you're paying attention to it. You have absolutely no desire to function in an emotionally secure bubble that is not true. I wonder if you've done that before in the past, right? The ways in which we lie to ourselves to kind of make ourselves feel more secure, right? So that the ego feels like it's, everything's tip top. We're still the hero. Everything's great. A lot of the time that's an emotional bubble that we create to make ourselves safe and to justify the actions that we take, right? The Three of Swords is about the puncturing of that with reality. Now, the fact that so much of this seems to be coming from up, coming up from there and then, kind of here. Like I said, this water trine is hitting people in really funny ways. And maybe for you, what it's doing is it's allowing you to tune into what's going on inside a little bit more clearly, even though it's not really bringing with it any kind of level of clarity, or at least it hasn't initially. But your response to that is to empower yourself in a different direction, because you're working with a level of truth that you did not have before, and you're working with a level of respect for not only your mammoth and your emotional state, but this sacred relationship that you have with yourself that is your primary duty first and foremost to honor, right? So the rest of this month is going to see you redoubling your efforts, but in a different direction, cognizant of the fact that you don't want to burn out, cognizant of the fact that you have no intention of hitting rock bottom before you finally kind of twig that there was a message here about the direction that you're traveling in, and instead kind of pull everything together and go, no, I'm going this way. Now, this may look a little reckless to other people. It may look like you've just detonated everything that you've been working on for quite a long time, but that's fine. It's nothing to do with them, right? It's about the alignment that's happening on the inside with the outside. Well, outside as in kind of cognition, right? Your conscious mind. And getting these in alignment so you're both walking forwards in a way that is optimal for you. You are both exhibiting the masculine energy of the planning, of the strategy, of being the emperor and being in charge, but also balancing the feminine of going, I have emotions, I'm allowed to have emotions, and my emotions tell me a lot if I listen to them. Now, emotions aren't always true. They're absolutely valid, but they're not always true. But even just an untrue but valid emotion coming up to the surface can be enough for us to witness what a subconscious part of us is reacting to, right? I think this is fascinating, personally. I'm going to go over to the extended now and dig into this a little bit more. Because I think that the tower-like nature of this is more about how it's received by other people. It makes perfect sense to you at the point where it happens, and I kind of like to dig into that a little bit more. So if you would like to join me, you're very welcome to do so. Like I said, you can join me on Selfie, you can join me on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. The links for both are in the description box below. If that's not your thing, that's absolutely fine. This is a strengthening. It might not look like it to other people, but it is. And it's strengthening in the most important way possible, because it is... it screams integrity. But the integrity that you hold in terms of the relationship that you have with yourself. And that is such a high expression of spirituality and healedness and all those things. I can't even tell you. So, like... roll with it. Roll with what feels right to you, because what feels right is the determining thing here, I think, this month. All right. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.